Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 9 of the Kicking It podcast. It's great to be back with you guys. Of course, we have just started, halfway through this week, the Rome Masters. And, as I think everyone has been waiting for just to see in terms of, level of playing or just a reaction around the tennis world, someone big is back, and that of course is Jannik Sinner. But in this podcast, we'll go through Sinner, a couple more players, and also Rome itself as a tournament, our thoughts, and the future look of it potentially. There's been a few bits here and there that make it seem like it's definitely moving towards that stage of a Grand Slam. So we'll get into that, but of course, I think first things first is if you enjoy the podcast or the content on the channel, please like and subscribe. It really helps grow the QualityShot tennis community. If you're listening to this on any podcast platform as well, please support it. It's great to have you guys listening and your thoughts in the comments below. Appreciate it. And with that, let's get into it. Big week. Definitely a big week with Jannik Sinner finally returning. Obviously, the 5th of May was his official first day back post his 3-month sentence, and it's it's clear to see that the level is still there. I mean, I'm recording this before he's even played his second round match, but his first match back against Navone. But from the practice videos that you see of him, earlier in the week when he first came onto the center court playing against Drew Lehechka, then on the little side courts in the coming days, against Taylor Fritz or Casper Ruud. I mean, Jannik looks back and he has definitely put on a bit of muscle. I guess it's not the worst thing in the world when you think about it to take 3 months off in a period where there's no Grand Slams and there's a few Masters 1000s. Sure, okay, not the end of the world to miss a few Masters 1000. And just fully focus on improving your fitness, your stamina, your muscular load, and it's good to see that he seems to have taken it quite seriously and quite in the right way. Of course, we haven't seen too much of him in these last 3 months. We haven't seen anything really on social media of him training or anything like that. Even just training privately in under the regulations that he's allowed to train, but it's clear to see that he has, and also the fact that he's been been spending a lot of time in the gym. Obviously, the practice points and practice sets are all great. At the end of the day, it's always great to do that, but match play is a bit different, of course, and Navone is not an easy opponent. He's a very good clay court player. But I think it's going to be so much anticipation for that match, so much hype, so much crowd support behind him when he gets back on court on Saturday at the Rome Masters, that I think Navone is going to have to be very, very tough mentally if he's going to get anything going in that one. It's realistically going to be a Jannik Sinner victory, probably in straight sets, but you could say it could go to 3 sets, and just because of the lack of match play he's had over the last 3 months. But I would honestly think it's a straight sets win. He has come out in the days, in the press, in the days before the tournament started, of course, in the press saying, oh, it's great to be back. I'm more than happy. I'm glad this is over. Doesn't seem like there's any issues in or outside of the locker room with other players. Players seem to have welcomed him back with open arms. I think most people are quite, I think the whole saga of this, did he do it intentionally? Did he not do it intentionally? Was he treated fairly, or like compared to other players? Did he get any preferential treatment? I think realistically now we have to sort of say that's enough. Okay, enough. He's done the time that he needed to do within the regulations. If you have anyone to question, it's not him; it's the regulations himself. So you can't really blame him for having utilized the regulations in the way they are able to be utilized. If, of course, there's the financial capabilities of someone. If you're number one in the world and you make 15 million in prize money in a year playing on courts, plus another 20 million from sponsors. Of course, you can pay for the best lawyers in the world, compared to a guy who's 150 in the world, who is barely scraping by to make a living. So, of course, it's not an apples to apples comparison, but you can't blame Sinner for having the means to do so. So it's more of a regulation and sort of I would say framework to blame rather than an individual player to blame. So I'm excited to see Sinner back. I think it's really good for the sport to have, obviously, the world number one back. And, even the likes of Carlos Alcaraz have said, it's great to have him back. He wants to meet him in the final. Hopefully we can see that. That would be like a tennis fan's dream, just to have that matchup right from the get-go as soon as Sinner returns. Will it happen? Only time will tell. But, I mean, Sinner has he's got a very good draw to sort of get himself back into a rhythm. Alcaraz definitely has the toughest draw in terms of, he's on the I would say the heavier side of the draw in terms of the better or the higher ranked players. Sinner's got a more, okay, let me find my ground strokes, let me find my rhythm, let me find my depth. And I think by the time he gets into the quarters, that's when he can sort of really start seeing a little bit more of a challenge. But second and third round, I think it's really going to allow him to settle into the tournament and into his rhythm. Of course, he's not put too much pressure on himself coming into this tournament. He said that his goal is Roland Garros, so you could see this as a warm-up event for him. But he is still the favorite. And if you look at the bookmakers, he's still the favorite to win the tournament, which is an interesting one. But if you think about it, who else is there to compete against him? Carlos is great. He looks amazing after his first match back from after skipping Madrid. But he is wearing a knee sleeve as well. It seems like if he's uninjured, Carlos is amazing, great, and he'll be perfectly fine. I'm just hoping that he stays uninjured. Then what we got Zverev. Zverev, of course, great, defending champion. So obviously we'll try and go far here, and he's got a lot of points to defend here and in the Roland Garros. And he's made a lot of comments, I'd say, in the media this week where he's been asked, are you a bit disappointed of the fact that you weren't able to capitalize on these 3 months and secure a world number one spot? Do you see it as tougher now that Sinner's back, et cetera, et cetera? So he's been quite clear that, the situation has been what the situation has been. He's not played his absolute best tennis, but he is very confident in becoming world number one one day. Of course, it's just going to get tougher and tougher. That's a question I guess I'm going to give you guys in the comments. Do you think Zverev will become world number one? And do you think he can do it without winning a slam or by winning a slam? I think there's a long way to go now for him to become world number one, especially because, as I said, he is the defending champion here. And, so 1,000 points to defend. And then he's got the final at the French, which is another 1,200 points to defend. So 2,200 points to defend in the next, 4 or 5 weeks is just a lot. And Carlos is right there behind him in terms of the seeding. And, then you're starting to say, okay, well, if he starts losing these ranking points as fast as he gained them last year, what really is the path for him to become a world number one? I think he'd rather, of course, win a slam than be world number one if you had to pick and choose either or. But it seems like nowadays, if he was able to have the season that he had last year and have won a slam, he would be very close to sort of contending for those number one spots. But of course, the tennis hasn't been there. He lost to Francisco Cerundolo again in Madrid. It's not really what you want to see. I mean, it's great to see from a tennis fan perspective because Cerundolo is a great player. But in terms of Zverev, it's not really what you want to see, because those are the things that you should be improving on from last year. You should be able to sort of say, okay, well, last year I lost to Cerundolo in Madrid. What did I do wrong? Of course, Cerundolo has improved since then, but so I expect myself to improve as well. I should be winning that match. And you know, let's see what he brings here to the table in Rome, especially as the defending champion. It's he loves playing here. He's played here against some of the greats in the sport, and he's won big before here. So hopefully he can replicate some of that. Speaking of Rome itself, I mean, I think we've all read the headlines from earlier this year where they made a very big bid to buy out the Madrid Open, of course, with the aim to, if that transaction were to be successful, with the aim to make sure that the Madrid Open would be moved to another point in time, and or any sort of way or shape or form that would allow Rome to have a solid 2-3 week period where they could basically make their bid to the four slams. Say, maybe we can be a slam as well. They've definitely, I visited Rome in 2023 as a fan, and the grounds are amazing. I mean, Pietrangeli is such a beautiful court. Centrale is great itself. It just feels like I feel like Centrale feels like you are sitting on top of the players. It just feels like that. I don't know how to explain it. You have Wimbledon where there's the court and then it sort of goes up like that. You have Madrid where you have the court, it sort of goes up like that, and then you've got Monte Carlo, which is sort of like that, but still quite wide out. And Rome is much more steep. You're sitting there, and you could be, and it just feels like you're on top of the players, which is, it's a great experience to watch tennis like that. I really enjoyed my time there, and I mean, it's a great ground just to walk around. A lot of space, a lot of passionate tennis fans. They've done a lot of revamping though. That's the thing. They've done a lot of revamping, and it shows that that's their clear intention to make their bid in the next few years. They're going to work on this behind the scenes quite a lot to, eventually try and have this transaction come through, or try and work around it in some other way and potentially become a slam. The one thing I have an issue with is, of course, they've made the upgrades to the grounds, and some of them are amazing. Some of them are beautiful. I mean, the super tennis arena they have there just looks stunning from the outside. But what they've done to Pietrangeli, I mean, that I'm a little bit less of a fan, because they have basically put stands on the sides of Pietrangeli, where you basically can't see. You don't have the open view anymore of the outside world, basically, on that court with all the statues, and that's the beauty of Rome. So it's a bit of a shame that they've done that. It doesn't seem like it's a permanent fixture. I think it looks more like it looks like more like Monte Carlo-ish stands with a white cover of the sort of railings and stuff like that. That allows them to sort of take it on and off. I guess after the tournaments, will they rethink of it in a different way for next year? I hope so, just because I think it's not about obviously there's a monetary side to all of this, because at the end of the day it's a business. Tennis is a business, and these tournaments need to make money. But some things shouldn't be changed, and I just personally think Pietrangeli should be left as it is. It should be one of those courts where it's a free for all in terms of first come, first serve. You shouldn't have to buy an individual ticket for Pietrangeli. A ground pass should get you in, and I don't want to really see them putting stands on there. You've got all your other stadiums, ticket those stadiums, but Pietrangeli, leave it as it is. It's the same as when you're at the US Open or something like that. You want some stadiums to just make sure they are for fans who are there and can enjoy tennis on a ground pass and have a great view. Court 17, grandstand, or even some parts of Louis Armstrong Stadium at the US Open. And I think it's proven to be, you can have stadiums at these slams or courts at these slams that don't have individual seated tickets, can get on a ground pass and still be a slam. So hopefully they learn from this year, and maybe next year Pietrangeli looks a little bit better than it does this year. I mean, my personal opinion. Yeah, so that's Rome. I mean, I would love to see a slam in Italy. I mean, it's a very, very, very passionate country for tennis. Will it actually, will it happen? It's quite tough, to say, oh, well, you're going to have two slams in a row or something like that with Rome and the French. There's going to have to be some mixing of the calendar. It's definitely not going to happen in the next 5 years, in my opinion. I don't think we're going to see anything like that until like post 2030, because I mean, things in tennis, they can happen quick, but they're not that quick. So yeah, that's my personal opinion. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below on whether Rome should become a slam if they are able to continue improving their grounds and maybe put Pietrangeli back as it should be, and purchase the Madrid Open and move the schedule around. Let me know in the comments. But yeah, speaking of tournaments after Rome, of course, I think this does involve Rome a little bit. We had a big withdrawal from Rome, obviously, ahead of the tournament. Novak Djokovic not playing in Rome this year, losing to Arnaldi in Madrid. Of course, I'm I was of the opinion that in Madrid, Djokovic would have been of the mentality to get, he probably was of the mentality, but he would have at least gotten one or two matches under his belt there. And it's a real shock that he hasn't been able to beat Arnaldi and really get himself a couple wins under his belt. I think something's wrong in his game or in his mental aspect or in his physical. Something's not there. We don't know quite what it is. I don't know if he knows what it is. He's definitely trying to find the solutions, but withdrawing from Rome when it's not to do with an injury, I mean, isn't the best thing. And he announced, obviously, in the last couple of days that he is going to be playing Geneva. So a 250 the week before the French, that seems to me, obviously, that, he hasn't won a single match in the clay court season so far. Obviously, he's played two, he's lost two. You want to go into Roland Garros if you're Novak Djokovic with 3-4 wins under your belt. I don't think you want to, at this point of your career, I don't think you need to have 20 wins under your belt to find your rhythm for Novak, but you need a few wins under your belt before going into the French. So it's really something that needs to be sort of looked upon in terms of with a little bit of doubt. I mean, going into Geneva, okay, Geneva will finish on the Saturday, I believe, because the French starts on the Sunday. Djokovic probably won't play until the Tuesday, maybe, depends. I don't know, at the French. So is it a physicality thing? Is he trying to is he not there physically? Because then it's a question, okay, well, if you're playing 4 or 5 matches before the French and you go into the French and you might be tired and then now you've got to play a best of 5 set match, is that helping you? Or is it, okay, I don't really care if I lose in the quarters or the semis. I just want to get a couple wins under my belt and then I'm fine to go to the French. Who cares if I lose in Geneva? Maybe that's the mentality. I don't know. I think it will be, if the French is going to be make or break, I think, for Djokovic's season so far. Because I think if he doesn't make a good run at the French, Wimbledon is looking obviously less and less like a great tournament for him. But we know Djokovic can switch it on at any given moment. Last year at the French, he lost to Cerundolo and basically blew out his knee, and then 1 month later, after surgery, he's in the final of Wimbledon. So we know he can turn it on. It's just, I'm more from a season perspective with his partnership with Andy Murray. I'm not too sure exactly how Novak's viewing it. I mean, he definitely won't fire Murray before Wimbledon. He definitely wouldn't want to go into Wimbledon with that much, anger or sort of any sort of drama between him and Murray, because the British crowd love Murray, so he will lose a few fans there. But if he has a bad Geneva or bad French Open, and then doesn't have that great of a Wimbledon, I'm not too sure how long this partnership's going to last. Nor does Djokovic know exactly how long he's going to be playing for. He hinted at his post-match press conference in Madrid that that might be the last time he's playing here in Madrid. So you don't really know exactly what's going on. I don't think he knows himself. It's a bit of a tough one, but I think, the French is going to be something we're going to have to look at very carefully with Novak. See a bit how he does in Geneva. If he gets 2-3 matches under his belt, that's always good. Even if the third match is a loss, it doesn't really matter as long as he finds his rhythm a little bit. It's good before going into the French. He doesn't want to tire himself too much as well. But yeah, that's realistically a situation that's going to be, I think, a very big focal point for the rest of the season for any tennis fan. With that, I think those are the four main topics I really wanted to discuss upon today in the podcast. It's always great to be back. We'll be back in a couple of weeks' time again. As always, if you enjoy the content, if you enjoy the podcast, let us know what your thoughts are. Like, subscribe, really helps grow the community. But throw any questions you want in the comments. Let me know what your thoughts are on the Rome revamp of the ground / interest in becoming a Grand Slam, and also what your thoughts are on Djokovic playing Geneva and but right before the French. It's going to be an interesting rest of the clay court season, I'm sure. There's going to be a lot to talk about in a couple of weeks' time. I'm quite sure of it. And with that, thank you guys for listening. And we'll see you guys in 2 weeks.